You've been doing everything right. You cut the salt. You started walking in the mornings. You take your medication at the same time every day like clockwork. You read the labels on every single thing you put in your mouth. You refused the extra fries. You said no to the chips at the party. You did everything they told you to do. And yet, you sat down in that doctor's office, arm extended, cuff tightening around your bicep, and you watched the numbers climb. Again, you felt that sinking feeling in your chest, not the physical pressure, but the emotional one, the one that whispers, "What am I doing wrong?" The one that makes you wonder if your body is betraying you no matter how hard you try. Here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. You are not doing anything wrong. You were given the wrong map. And today, we are going to give you the right one. If this is your first time here, this channel exists because your heart chose to spend its entire life with you. Every single beat, every single one, is a promise it keeps, even when you're not thinking about it. Even when you're stressed. Even when you're sleeping. Even when you've forgotten to be grateful. Your heart never forgets you. And we believe the least we can do is make sure you never forget it. Before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Because what we're about to share with you in the next few minutes is the kind of information that could completely reframe how you understand your blood pressure, your cardiovascular health, and the organ that almost nobody talks about when we discuss hypertension. This video might be the most important thing you watch this year, and I mean that with full sincerity. By the end of this video, your understanding of what is actually causing high blood pressure will never be the same. We're going to walk through the real root cause, the one hiding in plain sight, and we're going to end with the most important piece of information, the one that ties everything together. So stay until the very last word, because the final point is the one that changes everything. And before we go, I need you to look down at the description of this video right now. We left something there for you. A gift. Let's begin. For decades, we have been told the same story. Salt is the villain. Sodium raises blood pressure. Reduce your intake, drink more water, take your pills, exercise moderately, and you'll be fine. It's a clean narrative. It's easy to communicate. It fits on a pamphlet in a waiting room. But here's the problem with clean narratives. They leave out the messy, complicated, extraordinary truth. And the truth, the one coming out of research labs at institutions like the University of Virginia, published in journals that most people will never read because they're written for scientists, not for human beings sitting in living rooms wondering why their bodies won't cooperate. That truth is something entirely different. The real root cause of chronic hypertension in the majority of cases is not in your heart. It's not in your arteries. It's not even primarily about the food on your plate. It's happening inside your kidneys, in cells so small they are invisible to the naked eye, in a biological mechanism so ancient it predates modern civilization, and it has a name. It's called the Renin Factor. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to do something for me. I want you to place one hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat for just a moment, not because it's a gimmick, but because I want you to remember, throughout everything we discussed today, that this organ chose you. It began beating before you were even born, around 3 weeks after conception, and it has never, not once, taken a day off. Your heart is the most loyal companion you will ever have, and right now it is working harder than it should be, not because it's weak, but because something upstream is forcing it to, and that something is what we need to talk about. The first thing you need to understand is what the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system is, and why it is the most underexplained mechanism in mainstream conversations about blood pressure. Most people have heard of adrenaline. They know that when you're scared or excited, your body releases a chemical that makes your heart race, your muscles tighten, your senses sharpen. That's adrenaline, and it's what scientists call a biochemical cascade, a chain reaction of signals that changes how your body operates in real time. What most people don't know is that your kidneys run a parallel cascade, all the time, silently, and it is this cascade that acts as the true master regulator of your blood pressure. Here's how it works. Deep inside your kidney tissue, in tiny structures called the juxtaglomerular cells, your body produces an enzyme called renin. Renin is not a hormone in the traditional sense. It's more like a key, a molecular key that unlocks a series of transformations in your blood. When renin is released, it converts a protein called angiotensinogen into angiotensin I. Angiotensin I then gets converted, primarily in the lungs, into angiotensin II. And angiotensin II is where everything gets serious. Angiotensin II is one of the most potent vasoconstrictors known to science. That means it causes your blood vessels to narrow. When your blood vessels narrow, the pressure inside them increases, just like what happens when you put your thumb over the end of a garden hose. The water doesn't stop. It just pushes harder. That is what is happening inside your arteries when the renin cascade is overactivated. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. This system was not designed to be a problem. It was designed to save your life. When your ancient ancestors were wounded in battle, or lost significant blood volume during illness, or were dehydrated from days without water, this system kicked in to maintain enough pressure to keep blood flowing to the brain. It was a survival mechanism, a biological imperative written into your DNA tens of thousands of years ago. But now that imperative is being triggered not by blood loss or dehydration, but by chronic stress, by sleep deprivation, by inflammatory foods, by sedentary lifestyles, by emotional isolation. The trigger has changed, the response has not. And so your body is using a survival mechanism designed for emergencies as if it were a daily operating mode. Your heart is not broken. It is responding to a false alarm that never stops ringing. And when you understand that, something shifts. Because now you're not fighting your body. You're trying to help it understand that the emergency is over. The second thing scientists have discovered, and this is where the research from Virginia becomes particularly fascinating, is that the kidneys themselves can become structurally compromised in ways that make the renin system hypersensitive. This is not about kidney disease in the traditional sense. You can have kidneys that pass every standard test on a regular blood panel and still have juxtaglomerular cells that are chronically overstimulated, inflamed at a cellular level, and producing renin at rates that create a persistent low-grade elevation in blood pressure. Think of it this way. Imagine your kidneys as the air traffic controllers of your cardiovascular system. Their job is to read the signals coming in from your environment, your stress levels, your hydration, your sleep, your nutritional status, and communicate to your heart and blood vessels what they need to do. When those controllers are calm, accurate, and well-rested, the whole system runs smoothly. But when those controllers are chronically overwhelmed, when they've been operating in a state of low-level emergency for months or years, they start making decisions based on outdated information. They start seeing emergencies where there are none. They keep sending the signal to constrict, to retain fluid, to increase pressure, not because there is a real threat, but because their sensor system has been recalibrated by chronic stress into a state of permanent high alert. This is what scientists mean when they talk about renal hypersensitivity as a driver of essential hypertension. And this is why reducing salt, while not entirely irrelevant, doesn't fix the problem for most people. Because salt isn't recalibrating the air traffic controllers. It's just one input among dozens. And if the controllers are broken, changing one input doesn't fix the whole system. What actually recalibrates the system? That's what researchers have been asking. And their findings have led them somewhere unexpected, somewhere ancient, somewhere that the pharmaceutical industry has largely ignored because it cannot be patented. The third revelation takes us into the world of phytochemistry, the science of how plants interact with human biology at a molecular level. For centuries, in the highlands of Ethiopia, in the monasteries of the Orthodox Christian tradition, a thorny shrub called Ziziphus spina Christi was revered not just for its spiritual symbolism, but for its medicinal properties. This is the plant known in many traditions as the crown of Jesus. The plant whose branches, according to Scripture, were woven into the crown placed on Christ's head at the crucifixion. It is a plant steeped in meaning. But it is also, as it turns out, a plant steeped in some of the most remarkable bioactive compounds ever studied in relation to cardiovascular health. The relevant compounds found in Ziziphus spina Christi include saponins, flavonoids, alkaloids, and a particularly potent group of polyphenols that have demonstrated in multiple peer-reviewed studies the ability to modulate renin activity at the cellular level. What this means in plain language is this. These compounds have shown the capacity to communicate directly with the juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney and help down-regulate the hypersensitivity that drives chronic renin overproduction, not by blocking a receptor artificially the way a pharmaceutical drug does, but by providing the biological environment those cells need to return to baseline. Think of it as the difference between forcing a panicking person to sit down by physically restraining them versus sitting next to them, speaking calmly, and allowing their nervous system to recognize that safety has returned. Both achieve stillness, but only one of them restores the person's own internal capacity for regulation. The asignatura química, the chemical signature, of these compounds appears to interact with the kidney's own regulatory pathways in a way that supports genuine recalibration rather than pharmaceutical suppression. And that distinction matters enormously. Because suppression without recalibration means the moment you stop the intervention, the system goes right back to where it was. Recalibration means you've actually changed the baseline. You've helped your body remember what normal feels like. The fourth dimension of this story is the one that most cardiologists, even the excellent and well-meaning ones, rarely have time to address in a 15-minute appointment. And it is perhaps the most important of all. Your blood pressure is not just a physical measurement, it is a readout of your emotional and relational environment. This is not metaphor. This is measurable, reproducible science. Researchers studying what they call social anchoring, the degree to which a person feels genuinely connected to and supported by other human beings, have found consistent and statistically significant correlations between the depth of a person's social bonds and their baseline blood pressure levels. People who experience chronic loneliness, not just occasional isolation, but the persistent internal experience of being unseen, unconnected, and emotionally alone, show measurable dysregulation of the renin-angiotensin system. They show elevated cortisol patterns that interact directly with kidney cell function. They show inflammatory markers that compromise the integrity of the vascular endothelium, the delicate inner lining of the blood vessels themselves. What this means is that your vulnerability, your willingness to let people in, to be genuinely known by at least one other human being, is not just emotionally important. It is cardiovascularly protective. The isolation that modern life has normalized, the performance of connection through screens, the substitution of social media engagement for actual intimacy, the way we've learned to be surrounded by people while remaining fundamentally unknown to any of them. This is not just a psychological problem. It is being read by your kidneys as a survival threat. Your body cannot distinguish between physical danger and emotional danger. The signal it receives from chronic loneliness is the same signal it would receive from standing alone in a predator-filled wilderness, and it responds accordingly. The renin goes up, the vessels constrict, the heart works harder. This is why deep connection, what researchers describe as the experience of being truly seen and accepted without performance, functions as what we might call a biological imperative for cardiovascular health. Not as a luxury, not as a nice-to-have, as a genuine physiological need, as real and as measurable as your need for oxygen. Your heart did not choose to spend its life with you so that you could spend yours in isolation. It beats in the hope that you will let someone else hear it. The fifth and final point is the one I promised you, the one that ties everything together, the one that, if you carry nothing else from this video, I need you to carry this. Everything we've discussed today, the renin system, the kidney cells, the ancient plant compounds, the social anchoring research, all of it points toward a single, unified understanding of what blood pressure actually is. Blood pressure is not a measurement of how hard your heart is working. It is a measurement of how safe your body feels. Read that again. It is a measurement of how safe your body feels. When your kidneys are inflamed and hypersensitive, your body doesn't feel safe at the cellular level. When you are chronically stressed and sleep-deprived, your nervous system doesn't feel safe. When you are emotionally isolated, when you carry your burdens alone, when you perform strength and hide vulnerability, your ancient biology interprets that as profound danger, and it responds with the only tool it has. It raises the pressure. It tightens the vessels. It prepares for a fight that never comes. And so the real work of managing blood pressure is not about restriction. It is not about the foods you eliminate or the pleasures you deny yourself. It is about creating the conditions, internally, biochemically, emotionally, relationally, under which your body can finally exhale. It's about supporting the kidney cells that have been in emergency mode for years, giving them the molecular environment they need to recalibrate. It's about recognizing that the crown of Jesus herb is not a miracle or a marketing claim, but a serious subject of scientific inquiry into how ancient plant wisdom can address modern biological dysfunction. It's about understanding that the Renin cascade, this extraordinary and ancient survival mechanism, deserves to be met with the same sophistication with which it operates. And it's about something even more fundamental than any of that. It's about deciding that your heart, this organ that has kept every promise it ever made to you, that has beaten for you in sorrow and in joy, in heartbreak and in celebration, in the moments you remembered to be grateful and in the vast stretches of time when you forgot, it deserves a body that feels safe enough to rest. Every time you prioritize real sleep, you make a deposit into the account of trust your heart holds with you. Every time you choose to be genuinely vulnerable with someone who has earned it, you make a deposit. Every time you eat in a way that supports the cellular environment of your kidneys, you make a deposit. Every time you pause, breathe, and remind your nervous system that the emergency is over, that you are safe, that you are enough, that the threat has passed, you make a deposit. And a heart that is regularly deposited into does not have to work so hard just to survive. It can finally, quietly, powerfully thrive. This is what cardiovascular health really means. Not the absence of disease, the presence of safety, the presence of connection, the presence of a body and a life that your heart recognizes as worth beating for. Your blood pressure numbers are not a verdict. They are a message. And now, for the first time, you have the language to understand what that message is actually saying. If this video reached something in you, if it changed the way you're thinking about your heart, your kidneys, your blood pressure, or your emotional life, please subscribe right now. Because this is just the beginning of the conversation. Every week we bring you the science, the stories, and the human truth behind the organ that has never given up on you. The least you can do is stay. Share this video with someone who has been doing everything right and still wondering why it's not working. They deserve a better map too. And take care of the heart that took a chance on you.